Miners, how are you? How are you doing? I hope you're doing well as we are here on DAO Labs. Today we'll be having our very first episode recording of the Into the DAOVERSE. It's about our social miners, our products, and our features and what we have to offer to everyone. Today I'll be joining, today we'll be having here both Irene Marciano, is that right? Did I pronounce that well?
Is it?
Wow, I had to cross my fingers there. And Mr. Malte Christensen is the CEO at DAO Labs, and Irene Marciano, our marketing specialist. I'd like to invite Malte to tell us again about a little story of DAO Labs and how we did end up here. Hi, Malte.
Hi, Alexis. Great to be here. Yeah, happy to do that. Essentially, what makes me personally very happy is that not only is the community within social mining very diverse, but the team at social mining or at DAO Labs itself consists of more 10 nationalities, which is just massive in itself. It kind of fits our narrative, and it shows that I think the product we are working on and what we're trying to convey to the people and to the crypto world as a whole attracts a lot of people from different tier one and tier one chains and from all over the crypto space. Now, to answer your question, I have a background as a teacher and in finance. About 5 years ago, I entered the IT world. I started to work for multiple startups that tried to pool customer feedback and reviews when it came to new products right before market launch. This company was called Crowdholding. That was around the time that I met our current CEO, Trujillo. We worked on two other companies together and then opened our first own consultancy in the IT sector. And that was around the time where we met Christoph Sacknoon in an accelerator here in Prague, B-Hub or Blockchain Hub it was called. And essentially, we then started the journey together to work on Elrond Network, a company that would in the future be the biggest blockchain export from Romania. And we met these guys, we helped them raise their seed round, we helped them with their marketing, we helped them produce a narrative. And at the end of the day, that was one of the first use cases for social mining. Similar with Avalanche, which at the beginning used the platform only with stablecoin USDT, because they didn't have a native coin at that point. All of this, and also a lot of the community, and of course Avalanche as with its Turkish origin, a huge Turkish community, would fall on a very futile breeding ground with social mining. So I do believe social mining helped these companies accelerate a lot. Then your own story, Alexis, you originate from NEM.
Yes.
Exactly. So we built together with NEM the NEM Hub, which at some point staked more than $150 million. Soft staked, I should mention. We had thousands of people there who were able to bring in their skill sets, who were able to work for the company and do something positive ahead of the symbol launch, ahead of the snapshot. And there was also our first dive into RAFT assets, essentially by building up or changing the NEM platform according to what the community wanted to see. Yeah, and we have other team members that originate from companies such as ILO, which I think is doing something vastly positive. Then, of course, from the EOS chain. Yeah, and several others. So I think that answers your question, and that's what put us on the map originally. One last thing to add. DAOmaker then shifted the focus from social mining, which used to be the flagship product, to the IDO platform. And that was a time when IDOs were booming. They still are to a degree booming. And DAOmaker became the biggest IDO platform, counting all of them. And essentially, that meant in a way that we never had the resources and the time to give social mining what it needed. It's a very good functional software. It's a bit bulky since it's been in production for over 3 years. But essentially, it meant that we never really had the time or the resources to dedicate to social mining. That's the reason why DAO Labs got created, because we wanted to bring the intelligent people from all over the crypto world together to essentially help build a better product. To get all these minds together to literally build something that hasn't been there before and improve it continuously.
I've seen that social mining by itself, it's something that right now social media are trying to replicate, okay? They're trying to treat their creators and the people posting content on they're almost copying our narrative. How does that make you feel?
So I do believe that this development in generally is very positive, because we're going towards a shift of decentralized work, and especially during COVID times, it's very important that people are able to work from home and remotely and bring in the capacity in whatever job they have online. I think it's very important. And now when it comes to social media, I also believe that's very positive. It's not only Zuckerberg who recently said that he would open a sort of job economy within Facebook to allow people to monetize their social media, which is basically exactly the direction we're going already since 2.5 years. But I think there was one of Elon Musk's points in the takeover attempt of Twitter that now failed, as we know, to also open monetization of tweets. Now, does it help us? Yes, I think that helps us. Obviously, if somebody is there who's, so for now, it's not that easy, right? If people make, let's say 50 or 100 bucks or maybe more, working on social media, on Facebook or on Twitter, how do they get compensated by Twitter? Do they need to have an account associated to Twitter? Does it make sense for these amounts? It doesn't. It doesn't really. And that's the reason why it hasn't been done on a large scale for now, because you have countries' regulations in between. And you have the financial market in between. It's not that easy to compensate that many people. So I assume the niche that we're in with crypto allows us to actually circumvent that problem and utilize people's power on social media and then pay them in crypto or pay them in shares, right? Make them micro shareholders. So yeah, I believe it's very positive, and I believe we are definitely spearheading that. So yeah, that makes me very happy.
So Malte, you are talking about compensation. So I was wondering, a question for you. Our best user will be able to convert their wardrobe points into allocation raft instead of boost, even though it remains optional, of course. And however, reputation is required to make a reservation to receive labor. And we know ILO and RAFT, and I'm asking you to also refresh the audience about these terms, are our means to reward the community for their efforts. So can you please tell the community when they will see more of these in actions?
The ILO stands for Initial Labor Offering. It's our new concept in regards to merit-based fundraising. That means, to give you a little bit of context here, we have a general problem with the overvaluation of startups in the market, a general problem with the VCs dominating a large part of the crypto market despite not really doing anything to help these startups, essentially leeching off good ideas, pumping up the coin once it hits the secondary market, and then dumping all the token on the back of small retail users. And this has been going in circles. And unfortunately, 90% of crypto is consistent of these mechanisms. Sky high overvaluations, then have it pumped for like maybe 1 to 2 months before TGE, and then 2 weeks after TGE, the whole thing is dead, basically. And if it's not 2 weeks after TGE, they run out of liquidity within 3 to 6 months. And essentially what we try to do now is we try to tell companies that they don't need to spend marketing budget. They don't need to spend tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars for a marketing agency that has no idea who they are. That very similar to influencers and key opinion leaders work with 10 other companies in a bull market. And how can that be organic? How in any way can that be organic content if it's been basically mass produced just to make a quick buck or quick share from any company they support? And now, in contrast to that, this money should go to the community. Maybe our solution allows people to soft stake, to accumulate influence, which then allows them to vote on other people's content. I believe we come to that in a second. But that's part of why it does make sense. It doesn't matter how small a shareholder is, to give them the right to shape and even to vote within the community. And we take people's hours and commitments and we reward them with shares for that reason. And the ILO is basically the process of this $1 million round within our collective fundraising. We're basically willing, or shows our willingness to give out. It doesn't mean that we give out up to $1 million of tokens, but it means that technically we have room and we have more than enough resources to see whether or not we're able to get the content, we get the programmers, we get the content creators, we get the designers to bring in the hours and then earn an allocation with their time and with their sweat and with their talent, instead of just buying into something, into any round, and then hoping it will go up or down. Now, that being said, obviously, the most important thing is that these assets that users invest their time in will remain liquid once they enter the market, and ideally forever. So for now, we have only given social mining to top 100 coins for that reason. That being said, once users have proved themselves, once they've been validated as content creators, as designers, as marketeers, business development specialists, or even developers, they get assigned a RAFT, a reserve agreement for future tokens. Very similar to a SAFT, the RAFT is basically giving the security to the user that if he completes the assignment within set time until ETA 1, ETA 2, or ETA 3, he's eligible to receive the allocation. Should he miss the first ETA, the allocation balance will go down to 80%. Obviously, there are penalties if the work is not done right, if the work is delivered late. But once these users have been validated and received their RAFT, they can always receive between 50 and 100%, depending on their work output, if they hit one of the 3 ETAs we set. And yeah, that's basically it.
Oh, the new things are the hubs that are coming, and because there's a lot of projects that are trying to follow our social mining template. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, so essentially the long-term plan for DAO Labs was to introduce version 1 and then version 2 to up to 10 top 100 companies before we launch, just to make sure to see how far we can scale. We are about to cross the 100,000 user mark at the moment, and once we scale to, let's say, 1 million, who knows how capable the system will be to deal with all these things. So we're gradually going up, we gradually build new use cases. Every platform, every chain is different. Everybody wants something different. But the main goal is to scale up to these 10 platforms. The next 3 in line that have signed with us are Polygon, then Carver, and then Wax, and that chronology. Obviously, we're talking to many more. We talked to some companies we knew from our history within the IDO game, but also within the 5-6 years we've all been in crypto. Here you have, for example, Hedera Hashgraph that we're talking to, Clayton, big Korean tier 1 we're talking to. There's several others that we can't all talk about, of course. But yeah, it's going to be a very exciting Q4. And it's going to be a very exciting Q1 next year.
So Malte, we already talked about wardrobes before, but it seemed to be in everyone's mind all the time. Maybe it's one of the most interesting and exciting part for our users, due to the fact that, of course, we offer ways to publish content and earn. I'm sure users wondering why they can be in a regular basis, for example, once or twice a week. Can we explain them something more about that, why we do this way?
Essentially, yeah, let me start at the beginning. We have 2 ways of compensating users. One way is the regular work drop. It can be done weekly, monthly, technically even on a daily basis. Even though with most chains, it doesn't make sense to do that. Then we have the marketplace, as visible, for example, on Avalanche's social mining platform, where users can redeem points for AVAX. At the moment, I think the threshold is at around 3,000 points. So once users accumulated 3,000 points on that platform, they can cash out. I think, first of all, it's important to mention why we are paying or compensating users in stablecoin at the moment. Very similar to Avalanche. We're utilizing social mining before our own coin or our own token is on the market. Hence, we pay people in BUSD or other stable coin. And then at some point, if they have enough reputation and enough validation on the platform, we allow them to convert that into allocations if they want. It's their free choice. If they prefer to keep stablecoin and keep earning stablecoin, that's perfectly fine, because their work is worth it. Now, we cannot do a workshop every day, or in most cases not every week. It's not feasible, to put it as simple as that. Dependent on the company we do it with, and also dependent on the gas fees, doesn't make it feasible for every chain. Now, we have two ways of paying users and compensating users. One is the marketplace that I briefly mentioned before, as you can see it on the Avalanche social mining platform, where users can redeem in AVAX once they've reached 3,000 points or more. And the other way are these workgroups. Now, what we will change, we will do language or foreign community specific workgroups. I teased that before. That means now we allow the community admins to basically create their own little ecosystems, set their own budget, find their own talent, and then also fund this talent with the budget we give them on multiple platforms, not only the DAOverse. So the long answer is, it's simply not feasible to pay people every day because of the gas fees, but also because of the validation. We want to make sure that we compensate and reward users fairly. And 1 or 2 days in between payouts is simply not enough to check if the work is indeed quality work. The other thing is that it takes time, for example, for our Twitter index to calculate how much payout the user should receive for his or her engagements. That can't be done in 1 or 2 days. That means there's at least a period of 1 to 2 weeks that has to be there system-based, because we are simply not able to calculate all these engagements, and it simply doesn't make sense. So on a technical perspective, on a monetary perspective, both not feasible to do it every day, but rather bi-monthly or ideally every month.
Malte, concerning validation process, we know we have a decentralized process where users can validate others' work through vote, and a centralized one, as we used to find our translation validators. Tell us a little more about these processes, please.
Sure. We have 2 ways of validating users on social mining. The first way is very centralized. That means we have people within the team sitting as system admins on social mining, but also ambassadors and validators within the companies we work for that do the job. Essentially, we have them cross-check and double-check other people's validations. That means every contribution gets at least checked twice. Overall, we get a percentage of how many of the validators deem a submitted contribution for a task as positive or negative, and how exactly, in terms of percentages, they would reward it. And then we see if they find consensus or not. And if we see that one of these centralized validators is falling out of the consensus range of all the others, we know that there might be other motives for giving the person either higher or lower points, depending on whether or not they want to harm or help the person. And in either way, nothing of that should happen. It should be entirely objective, which is obviously hard to achieve, but that's why we have this done by consensus of all validators. Now that's the very rudimentary way of doing it, the very basic way. The harder way is to utilize our C board, our internal voting system. For example, Alexis must know that in the times of NemHub, we allowed people to soft stake their ZEM in order to gain influence. And then with that influence, they can give out voting credits, positive or negative voting credits.
Yes.
That means the system awards people who find good content early the most. Let's say there's an article that comes out, it's featured on the seaboard of social mining. Now we make it open for voting, and the voting at the end determines the percentage of the payout. We have a few people who use their influence, who use the soft staked asset to upvote this early, so other users will see it faster, essentially helping it to go viral in the best case scenario, because they saw it first. Now, if all the other people who vote after this first person also vote in the same fashion or within the same range, then this person who found the good content first and voted it up first will get the most, up to 30% of the task payout, in fact. Now, in the past, we saw that we have to do segmented voting. That means Japanese users can only vote on Japanese content, Russian users only on Russian content, and so forth, because it doesn't make sense to show users content they cannot really understand or work with in the first place. Now, the problem with that is it's a beautiful concept, the decentralized voting, The problem is that we work with the scalability issue of the voting concept. So first of all, you need at least a few thousand people to make this viable in the first place. You need a token, ideally, that has to be soft staked. That makes it quite difficult for companies like us, or even like Ava at the very beginning, who didn't have their own native coin, to utilize voting. And then further, the voting concept in itself, that only people who stake the most, because you have great validators and great users who simply don't have the funds, even to soft stake, to go on Binance or go wherever and then buy the coin and soft stake it. So it actually would make more sense to work on the voting algorithm in general. And here we orient ourselves from the idea of quadratic voting, to give the smaller users with less influence the chance to still have, to throw their hat in the ring and to make sure that their vote has enough weight to actually determine a good payout if they choose wisely. I know it's a bit complicated. The whole voting algorithm is, we do an ANN and an article series on that very soon. But yeah, the idea is we introduce it in Q4, we test it. It's always a test, and then we calibrate it as we see fit. But yeah, the future of social mining will be seaboard voting and not user validations, even though the user validations are a good mechanism to double check and cross-reference if content is indeed original and if accounts are indeed real. Yeah.
And I must add that way we'll start looking more like a social community we are, if I may say so. Someone told me that they felt like they were in a big family, okay, because we're community members that are taking to each other, are taking care of each other and helping them tasking, so to speak. And that's a fantastic thing to see every day, and I'm really proud of it. Mostly of our admins, I have to give them a big hand because of that tremendous work they're doing. I don't know if you agree with me, guys, but our admins are the best.
A special heartfelt warm thanks from us at DAO Labs to our wonderful admins and community managers who do a great job and great performance every day. Here we have, for example, Indonesia, Albert and Ray, who manage this wonderfully. Then we have DAO Labs Africa, bringing social mining to a lot of different places. Here we have Samuel and Calvin, who do this great. And then last but not least, Sicilian and the Filipino community, who obviously gets help from people like Wall Street or Pathfinder or Boss Madam or Amara. I can't even, thank them all. It's too many people. And yeah, thank you so much.
So that's great. And speaking of which, when are we going to see the next family member on the Social Miner of the Hour, Irene?
Yeah, well, the Social Miner of the Hour is a format focused on great users. It's an interview we make almost every week, dedicated to someone from the community who stands out for his or her successful work, their special talents, the effort they put into the project, the presence on the community and the platform. And I have to say that I'm really honored, I'm really happy to know and to interview these special people from around the world. And every time I make it, I realize we are doing something great, something really special for our and for their future and for the future of the crypto space.
And I'm sure they feel like it too. Well, guys, I think it's time for us to say goodbye for this episode of Into the DAOVERSE. We're going to thank again for joining me, Irene, Marciano, and Malte Christensen. Okay, both are great guys here at DAO Labs. See you in the next episode, okay? And stay tuned for more to come for here Into the DAOVERSE. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.